Episode 46 of Grace and Steel. I'm Kevin Steele.
And I'm Kevin Michael Grace.
Those of you who have seen the topics description for this program will have noticed that we're only doing one topic and 1 hour this episode, rather than our usual 2 topics over 2 hours. The shortening of our episodes is something we're trying, at least for this summer, to see if we can decrease the turnaround time from recording a show through to posting it for your listening pleasure. We hope to keep the output the same. We will try to do 2 hours a week, with each hour being a complete episode, but no promises yet. Your Two Kevin's crew is trying to get a few show-related side projects underway. These will take up some of our time as we strive to have things set up for the political sprint in September. Now, on with the show. The title for this episode is The Trump Train Has Left the Station. The Republican convention wrapped up on Thursday night in Cleveland with a barn burner of a speech by the nominee Donald Trump. Some called it dark and foreboding, others called it reality. It was a speech that firmly established a new alignment was taking place and where those lines are drawn. There are winners, there will be losers. We know who the winners are. Kevin, if the Trump train has departed, who got left behind at the station?
Well, I think the big loser here was, besides Hillary and the Democrats, was the media.
Well, they certainly were all over the speech. It seemed like they had a uniform reaction to it, that it was dark and troubling.
Well, I mean, the news media, there's the name, it has news in it, right?
Yes.
And the news is a derivation of the word new. Now, The news media has made it clear that they're not interested in anything new, that they want the same thing again and again and again, only wider and harder.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of someone like Donald Trump coming along, who's different from your normal Republican nominee. 2 reactions to this. One, a failure to understand the difference, and 2, a refusal to countenance the idea of things changing.
I would say there was some of that, but I noticed the whole audience, they seemed tripped up by the content of this speech as well, because it didn't sound like a regular sort of acceptance speech. We had actually talked about that before, how his ideas, it seemed that people were thinking about him. They weren't just, it wasn't just call and response. He would say something, they would cheer. It wasn't that. He was presenting stuff to them that they actually had to think about. And the audience seemed genuinely, I guess, to be listening to the speech and thinking about it. And, it gave the appearance, therefore, that it wasn't just a big rally speech, right? So maybe.
Well, it was a substantive speech.
Right, yeah.
Typically what you get from the nominee is a speech, John McCain, derp, and Mitt Romney, beep, boop.
Right, loud cheers.
And, let's all get excited about nothing, really.
Yeah, but there's a cadence to it, and everybody seems to sort of acknowledge what it is, right? And it's just sort of empty frenzy. But that didn't happen last night.
Well, they're probably not used to hearing Trump speak, because if you compare the text of the speech with the way it was delivered, you'll see that it's substantially different.
Mm-hmm.
That Trump typically amplifies. He'll repeat words, phrases. Yeah, we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
You notice that, right?
Yeah. Well, this wasn't a rally. That's the thing, right? And I think a lot of people were used to seeing him in rally mode. And anyways, go ahead. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Well, no, I think that the crowd was thrown off to a certain extent because it's become a rule that politicians are not allowed to say anything that's meaningful or important.
Yeah.
I mean, let's go back to Obama with his hope and change. This is an indictment of the media that they actually carried on as if this meant anything.
Mm-hmm.
As if every politician in our lifetime has not campaigned on hope and change. Every single one of them. Who were the politicians who said, nah, it's just fine the way it is?
Mm.
And every time some head pops up and says, maybe we should, I'm just going to whack them so hard. They are never going to try that stunt again. And as far as hope, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Who cares? All politicians play this game, which is that we live in the bestest jurisdiction in the whole world. Yay! Yeah. And okay, that's point one, bestest jurisdiction in the whole world. Point two, all of these changes are needed right now, desperately. Well, both those things can't be true.
Yeah, but
they can't.
We got a lot of that out of the Trump speech, though. I mean, that was in the.
This isn't, but this traditional approach induces cognitive dissonance in people, and it leads them to conclude that there's a lack of sincerity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that with Trump, people have to come to terms with the fact that he means what he says.
Well, I don't know whether they actually will do it. They may just withhold their judgment until he actually has power, because I mean, he said an awful lot of things last night. He went through, there was a huge list of things that he wanted to accomplish, and some of them pointed out, some of the commentators afterwards pointed out, that he was promising, that the day he takes office, that the country's going to be made safer again instantly, and things like this. So I mean, he promised. It was heavy on specifics and heavy on the transformative change almost immediately. I think that's what some took issue with. Well, I may be reading too much into that.
Let's look at this question of the speech being depressing,
which was they were pretty unanimous in that.
Yeah, this is their equivalent of journalist or whatever they're calling it now, where the media gets together and decides what the line is going to be. They came up with the line depressing or dark, variations on that.
Right, yeah.
So this site Newsbusters came up with a list of media inanity. So CBS's Charlie Rose greeting viewers with this stark opening. Welcome to CBS This Morning. Donald Trump accepts the Republican presidential nomination, saying there can be no prosperity without law and order. Now I'm going to break in to say that doy.
Well, unless you're an anarchist.
And I'm going to repeat that again, okay? Doy. There can be no prosperity without law and order. Is Charlie Rose suggesting that Trump has said something controversial here?
He may be trying to read something into it, That's
Now, he continued, his speech focused more on threats than hope. A little later on Friday's show, Rose's colleague John Dickerson also painted the speech in dark tones. A speech left with no uplift, no hope in it. Usually you use that hope to bridge to another constituency, to draw people in, to reach into another constituency. What the fuck is this guy going on about? What does that mean?
I don't know, but I mean, he was saying things
swearing.
He was saying things like, if you have no voice, I am your voice. I mean, he was promising lots of hope, lots of change, so maybe too much.
Dickerson concludes, and we just don't know if that's possible with such a dark speech. Apparently, there's a bridge building problem to other constituencies.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you an analogy here, which is that
it better be helpful.
Well, you play on a football team, and it's halftime, and you're down 24-7. Okay. And then you go into the locker room, and there's the coach, and the coach is pissed. And the coach gives you a speech, the gist of which is that we're going to go out there in the second half, and we are going to stop fucking up, and we are going to start kicking ass. Now, my question to you is that a depressing speech? I don't think it is. What do you think?
Well, usually it starts off depressing, but it's meant to fire you up. It's meant to make you angry. And I think he actually laid that marker down early on in his campaign, that he was going to be angry. He was happy to take the mantle of angry. So I'm not sure why they would even act surprised that this might be dark speech.
Well, I have postulated, perhaps on this show, it's difficult to remember all of the things that one has said. my belief that the universal use of SSRIs and antipsychotics and such drugs among our elite has made them stupid. And I think that the reaction to the Trump speech is an example of this.
Mm-hmm.
Here are some lines from the speech. Okay, I'm just going to read a little bit. Decades of progress made in bringing down crime are now being reversed by this administration's rollback of criminal enforcement. Homicides last year increased by 17% in America's 50 largest cities. That's the largest increase in 25 years. In our nation's capital, killings have risen by 50%. They are up nearly 60% in nearby Baltimore. In the president's hometown of Chicago, more than 2,000 have been the victims of shooting this year alone, and more than 3,600 have been killed in the Chicago area since he took office. The number of police officers killed in the line of duty has risen by almost 50% compared to this point last year. Nearly 180,000 illegal immigrants with criminal records ordered deported from our country are tonight roaming free to threaten peaceful citizens. Now, that sounds like America has several problems, serious problems, doesn't it?
When you put it that way, yeah. That actually does sound kind of dark.
I mean, what's the Democratic response, the media response to be? Where was that stuff about the audacity of hope? Huh? Because you know what? When these
points of light.
When the killers find out about the audacity of hope, they'll just stop killing.
Mm-hmm. When they realize they're one of the points of light. It was short on platitudes, I have to admit. That is one thing that this speech didn't have very many. It had a lot of, classic Trump lines and modifications of his classic lines, Make America Great Again, that kind of thing. But yeah, it did seem to be information heavy as well. I think that was, again, part of what seemed to be tripping up the audience.
Well, here's another story from Newsbusters. Chris Matthews can't wait for Hillary's fun convention. More celebs.
Oh, yeah.
Now, he said last Thursday night, Matthews enthused, Philly's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot more celebrities, a lot more Hollywood, a lot more bold print. Liberal panelist David Corn mocked, maybe less anger. Fellow guest Dana Milbank assured there would be a lot less intrigue. Mm-hmm. The Philadelphia native Matthews announced there will be no anger in Philly. It's the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. I'm old enough to remember when Chris Matthews was not a retarded faggot.
Wow. How old are you, man?
Well, okay. Yeah, that is kind of giving the game away, isn't it?
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That Chris Matthews was actually, something of a serious newsman.
Yeah.
Oh, Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love. Has he looked at the murder, assault, rape stats in Philadelphia lately? Philadelphia is on the cusp of becoming another Detroit or Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing.
Oh, by the way, Matthews made a big deal during the convention that it was wrong of Trump and the Republicans to mention the names of certain cities: Washington, D.C., Chicago, Baltimore.
Why? Because it made people sad?
This is racial code.
Oh, okay.
Well, to be fair to Matthews, it may be racial code, but that doesn't make it any easier for him for this reason, that the three cities I just mentioned are dominated by blacks politically, and they are basket cases. Mm-hmm. Now, but of course, if you're really going to take the position, I can't hear you, then you've rather disqualified yourself from the comment business, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the his take on it and everyone else's take on it is that Philly is going to be a hoot, is it? It's going to be a good time.
Well, when the mothers of the moment.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Worst mothers in America. Mm-hmm. Trayvon's mom and Michael Brown's mom, and they're going to get up. Boy, that's going to be a hoot.
That'll be fun. Yeah. Yeah. Chris, you're looking forward to that.
Unintentionally.
Yeah.
Look at these women. As I say, the worst mothers in America, and they all got rich using this one weird trick.
yelling at the cameras after their son gets killed.
No, it's called a lawsuit.
Oh, okay.
It's called a lawsuit.
Well, it's that may be the fatal blow, but perhaps we'll stick with the Republicans right now. We're looking back. We're not looking ahead right now. We're looking back at this convention that just ended. And we asked at the beginning who got left behind. You say the media. Anybody else get left behind?
Well, I want to keep on the media.
All right, let's rag
because
on the
there's
media.
things happening. There's things happening with the media.
Okay.
I mean, they had an opportunity to, I don't know, pay attention to what's happening, to actually devote some serious study to, what would you say, the first major change in politics certainly since the end of the Cold War and maybe since the end of the Second World War. Now, where someone stands up against the liberal consensus, against the globalist consensus, but no, they're reduced to cheap stunts, like this gotcha moment. Oh, Melania Trump stole a speech. Oh, I see. The Washington Post and the New York Times is really going to fall for this clickbait stunt? Yes, they are. And it just shows that, in their desperation to survive, to become more relevant, that the elite media, which of course never misses an opportunity to piss all over the new media, well, they've become just like them.
Yeah, and the interesting part about it, of that gotcha moment, was it revealed a pattern I've noticed for a while, but I guess I should point it out because it's probably going to become very severe in the next few months. And the pattern is the news reports on it, then the late night shows pick up on it, then the news reports on the late night shows picking up on it. So it becomes this, tag team cycle of ridicule, right? It's been going for a while, but it's really severe with this one.
I mean, the sites that I've been to, many of them have got into deep conspiracy thinking, because it's fairly obvious that if we're going to compare Melania Trump to Michelle Obama, well, who's going to win that dispute on all sorts of different levels? And so, they did this, the Trump campaign did this on purpose. I don't know, maybe they did it on purpose. I tend to think that these things don't happen on purpose. But maybe it happened on purpose because the news media has become so predictable, so easy to troll, such that you have these sites like the Fake Salon site.
Salon.com, yeah, or Salon.
Yeah, and the Huffington shitpost, where it's often difficult to tell.
It isn't actually a site yet, but it's more a meme is what it is, yeah.
I'm going to give you another example here. This is the Philadelphia Inquirer fashion critic, Elizabeth Wellington, loved Melania Trump's white dress. On a strictly fashion note, the white sheath with its fluted sleeves and very cool exposed zipper down the back made for an exquisitely put together, if not angelic, look. But on a strictly political note, it was a scary statement. Yeah, it apparently underlines her husband's view that white is always right.
Wow.
She was a not-so-subliminal billboard for what's looking like the Trumpian view of an ideal American. In other words, anti-all things brown. In the GOP, white is always right. And if that's the fashion statement she intended to make, it's a very scary one. These people should be fucking ashamed of themselves.
Well, actually, they should be fired, and we should have jobs.
Yeah, well, no, see, here's the thing, that I'm instructed that I am not to feel any schadenfreude when members of the media lose their jobs. Well, I lost my job. I lost several jobs. And, I'm beginning to feel some schadenfreude. Because this is what they come up with, and it's everybody in the mainstream media. I mean, have you been reading the National Post in Canada lately?
Not the Post, no. I have been skimming National Newswatch for its dribble, but
no. I mean, this is really shocking. I would advise our American listeners, American friends, that if you want a quick way to find out about elite thinking in Canada, go to this site called nationalnewswatch.com, which is a news aggregator, like Drudge. Only it pretends to be in the center,
Mm-hmm.
and it is very much not in the center.
Yeah.
And I joked earlier today. I gave a simple lesson about how to write about Trump for Canadian media. 1, type unclean, unclean. 2, Control A. 3, Control C. 4, Control V 300 times. 5, collect paycheck. Sorted.
Yeah, unfortunately, you nailed it. Sorry.
It really is that simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, we won't go on to the Canadian reaction. It was pretty typical. You know, it was like, there's a lesson here for Canadian conservatives, you know, don't be like Trump. Because, you know,
don't be like Trump because we're going to be angry with you. And everyone is just so big on the media these days.
Mm-hmm.
They love the media, what, more than car salesmen?
Used car salesmen.
Don't they rate below car salesmen now? Something like that?
I haven't seen that poll lately. But
okay.
with the stuff out of the mid-aughts, it was still, we were down at the bottom there. Journalists down there with lawyers.
There's one other thing. I want to make this short because I don't want to give undue attention to it. Just looking at the people in the media attacking Trump. There are so many Jewish names, and it's like 100% anti-Trump. I'll just say this. If I were Jewish, I would be worried that the representation of my people in the media is of a people that appears to hate America and, moreover, hate Western civilization.
Yeah, unfortunately, that vibe is coming through. But a lot of it is coming through the Democrats as well. It's being funneled through them. And we haven't mentioned it yet because it's not really the topic of the day, but there's all these leaked emails coming out that are providing...
Oh, you mean the WikiLeaks?
The WikiLeaks emails that are coming out from the DNC that are really, I mean, they are gut-splitting funny, some of these.
Oh, no, they're giving they're giving orders to Chuck Todd.
And Jake Tapper, actually.
Yeah, they're giving them orders.
Yeah. Oh, man, I know. It's like, well, you know, I guess there is a conspiracy. Again, it's lame, but
I don't know how this is supposed to work. Are we supposed to believe that the Democrats are going to say, well, we're not going to allow any Democrats to be on Chuck Todd's show, Meet the Press? Is that a serious threat? Because I don't think that's a serious threat. What do you think?
Well, I read these things, and of course, you know, I was wondering about the tone of them. I mean, is this just the way they have this imperious way of dealing with the press, or do these people actually believe they are issuing instructions to these people? Like, what does Jake Tapper think when he gets one of these orders? Does he think, yeah, screw you? Or does he, you know, stand to attention and behave accordingly?
I think he stands to attention, but I think there's also something else going on, which is that he sincerely does not want to get on the wrong side of the Hillary campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Because on the one hand, he's supposed to be a journalist. On the other hand, come on, Hillary is a force of the future. Hillary stands for what's good, what's right, what's decent, what's American. Oh, yeah, Bernie, whatever. But when the chips are down, you've got to stand with her, right?
Well, it used to be that journalists would be hoping for access to the candidate, right? Or access to the politician or access to the cabinet. If I toe the line, I will be allowed to go and have one-on-one interviews with these people. But Hillary's not allowing any of that, you know? I mean, she doesn't seem to... She grants, I guess, 1 or 2 exclusives. But, you know, I don't know whether is that what they're trading on, or is it something new? Maybe she's got dirt on them all.
Well, no, you make a good point about her really not allowing any access. I guess they just don't want Hillary angry with them.
Mm-hmm.
They can't bear the thought of mommy being upset with them, because I really think that these men and women really regard her as a mother figure, which may explain why they're such horrible people. If that's how they regard the perfect mother.
Oh, man. Well, of course, we are going to be getting closer to the debates. This is going to be fun. But anyway, so we are, like I say, talking about the Republicans at the moment. Do you want to continue ragging on the press, or did you want to talk about any other losers from the convention that got left at the station, like the neocons?
Well, I mean, Obama's obviously a big loser because Scott Adams has been pointing this out for quite some time. It seems like Trump is already the president. That what he gave, the speech that he gave on Thursday night, was effectively a State of the Union address, was it not?
Yeah, it was kind of like that. But I was thinking, I was actually comparing it in my memory to I think it was 2006 State of the Union address Bush, where he would just simply make a statement and then everybody would clap. And this went on through the entire speech. It was like, they just kept applauding after every line. That didn't happen in Trump's speech at all, because, like I say, there was substance there. There was things that people were thinking about as he was speaking. You could see some people objected to some of the things that he said, and others were standing up while others were muttering under their breath.
Well, I wanted to mention, Obama held a press conference today. And, sorry, I'm not supposed to mention what day we're recording this on.
No,
but he gave a press conference. And he talked about another Allahu Akbar moment, this time in Munich. And he just couldn't stop yucking it up. He couldn't stop yucking it up for some reason. Oh, and he got all weepy-eyed when he talked about his eldest daughter going away to college. And, it's like the old joke about when you had the transition. In television news, when it got very much lighter and conversational.
Right.
And I think there was a joke about this on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and it goes something like, and now on to that killer hurricane in Mississippi. And Obama's press conference was like this, and I really think that it's come home to him that he's an utter failure, that he's accomplished nothing, that no one cares about him anymore, and they just want him to leave.
Yeah, that's going to be hard to take if that is in fact the case. But, this was one of the longest acceptance speeches they said in 40 years, I think. This was a
76 minute.
Yeah, it was substantive, and it was a bit of a barn burner too. Now, one of the things that Obama was always praised for was his speech delivery. Now, Trump's speech delivery isn't the greatest, but there was a lot there, and I think maybe being upstaged is getting to him.
Look, congratulating Obama on his oratorical powers is like, I don't know, it's like saying wonderful things about whatever meat puppet is reading the CBS Evening News. Because that was effectively, it's the same thing. You saw I
think he took it seriously, though. I think he believed it.
Well, you saw that business where he was all put out at the right wing a few weeks ago, and is if, and provocative tweets and okey doke.
Yeah. Maybe he's just started smoking dope again. I mean, that's my go-to explanation for Obama's behavior lately. But
my suggestion was, I started seeing these commercials a couple of years ago where it's depressed, yeah, taking antidepressants, yeah, not really working too well, yeah. We have a solution for you. Oh, what's that? A second antidepressant on top of the first.
Yeah, may cause blindness.
Yeah, and so that's my suggestion for what's up with Obama.
Oh, okay.
That he's taken the two now, and I'm president. Yeah, okay, I'm president. That's cool, right?
But I'm not a good president. Oh my God. Anyways, okay, so Obama lost. I thought you were going to at least, one last kick at the neocons here. Come on.
Oh, the neocons. What? A couple of things. the first thing is that the Trump forces made a change to the platform that the United States government is not going to be military material to the Ukraine. No, we're not doing that. And then this campaign started. Oh my God, Trump isn't on board with whatever the hell it is the United States, well, and Canada for that matter, thinks it's doing in the Ukraine, right?
Right.
And then this creep called Jeffrey Goldberg wrote this long piece in The Atlantic in which he reviled Trump for being like Putin. You know, they have an obsession with strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unlike President Drone Strike, President Obama, who has killed thousands of people, his own government says that 90% of them are just innocent civilians, right?
Right.
But apparently, Trump and Putin are the people who are obsessed with showing strength. And that Trump is apparently running as the candidate who is, I don't know what, not going to start a war with Russia. And the neocons, I mean, it's all part of the plan, it would seem. That when you read someone like Jeffrey Goldberg, you think, or at least I think, hey, this guy is making the case for Trump, which is saving the world from bloodthirsty maniacs like Jeffrey Goldberg.
Fair enough.
This was a guy, and this needs to be stated, and it cannot be stated often enough, that he is a damnable liar with the blood of thousands on his hands. Oh, the Saddam Hussein weapons of mass destruction, nuclear weapons. Oh my God, it's just we have to move now, now, now. And then 5 years later, oh, well, yeah, that it all turned to shit in Iraq. That's Bush's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. The invasion's still a great idea.
Yeah, it was a good idea. Definitely a good idea. Poorly executed. Yeah. That's all.
Poorly executed.
Let's try again.
I could point out that, that's one of the problems with things like invasions, that you write them all out in paper and, this is going to happen. Oh, and then we're going to crush those people. Well, of course they're going to crush them, right? But then afterwards, we're going to do this and that, and everything is just going to be wonderful. But sometimes it doesn't turn out that way.
Mm-hmm. But they're gone. I mean, they're on the outs. There were several direct statements made that basically shoved them right to the sidelines. Now, there was no shot of Bill Kristol on my TV screen when this was happening, so I don't think he was there. But there were a few, I would say, people scratching their heads when the topic of foreign wars came up.
Well, no, I mean, Hillary is making it so easy that Hillary is going to be campaigning on a basis of turning over America to Black Lives Matter and America starting wars with Russia and Iran and whichever other country bugs her that day.
Yeah, she's making a pitch for the neocons the same way Trump is making a pitch for the Bernie bros, I guess. We can swap them.
Well, yeah, the idea that, endless war. How has that worked out for the United States since September 11th, 2001? Not too good.
Well, the Clinton Foundation seems to be doing pretty well with it.
Yeah, there is that. And I'll just point out that, these haters are always hating Hillary, saying, has she ever run a business? Have you seen the Clinton Foundation? This is a woman, a poor woman, and she had nothing but a vision, a husband, and an email server. And she has made hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, come on, that's the American dream, is it not?
Mm-hmm. And if she loses, no refunds, folks. That's the thing, right? So I borrowed that.
Oh, well, no,
joke.
she's going to lose. She's going to lose. She's going to lose. She's going to lose. I mean, I cannot say it enough. What did this clown, Warren Kinsella? This
Canadian clown.
Yeah, this man of mystery. The only person to have ever sued me, although it never went to court because there was no case there.
No substance.
He was talking to this other clown, Charles Adler, who has a Sirius XM radio show. Well, not radio, whatever you want to call it.
Satellite radio.
Satellite radio. They were talking about the possibility, which they consider to be serious, of Trump losing Texas. I'm sorry to mention Canada again. That is just how out of touch it is up here.
Right, yes. And I think they use the phrase blue state, red state.
Oh, yeah. No, we should talk about this. This is really important. That Peter Thiel gave a speech, the maverick Silicon Valley billionaire angel investor, in which he talked about pointless culture wars.
This was pivotal. This was a big moment because this is going to affect Canada as well. Sorry, go ahead. Yes. This is a remark that liberals use the pointless culture wars all the time. Anyway,
well, no, see the liberals like the culture wars.
Yeah, I know. That's why they use them.
No, I'll explain briefly why they like the culture wars, because the conservatives never fight them very well.
Mm-hmm.
And they always tend to fight them on the slippery slope theory. Well, if this happens, then the next bad thing to happen is going to be this. And when you proceed from the slippery slope theory, you're already conceding victory on whatever is being contended at the time.
Yeah.
But
falling into the abyss.
Movement, the right, whatever you want to call it, got all invested in a bunch of disputes that it always lost. And disputes which, well, perhaps they shouldn't have got into for the reason that if the people decide that they want abortion, well, I guess that's what they want. If the people decide they want gay marriage now, I don't need to explain to my listeners that this was phony from the start and it was all engineered by the courts and whatever. But the people are told, oh, we all love gay marriage, and they say, we do? Oh, I guess we do, right? Okay, so I guess that's lost. But the point is that Trump's campaign from the very beginning has been not a values campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And the media and the Democrats, they don't get this. I mean, they haven't been paying attention. And again, I have to suggest that something has happened to them. They are stupid, that they're incapable of seeing something new and saying, oh, well, this isn't like Bob Dole or John McCain or Mitt Romney. So how are we going to deal with something that's new? They're too old, or they're too stupid, or they're just too willful. And
I think it's the SSRI thing that you were talking about.
Okay, here. Hillary Clinton tweeted this today. She quoted Donald Trump, "I'm with you." And then she put an asterisk there, not included women, African Americans, LGBT people, Muslims, Latinos, immigrants, ...
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is the way these morons think. And, well, it's not just the way they think. Did she not listen to the speech?
Well, that's...
I know that she's rather feeble in the head these days, but Trump, and I noticed he seemed to have some difficulty pronouncing this term, this LGBTQ, right?
Right. Well, he got through it.
As I recall, he said it twice.
Mm-hmm.
And did none of her handlers tell her that? Or when she's watching things on TV, like, the Republican convention, does her mind just drift off to fantasy land?
After that speech and the reaction to it by the Democrats, one can't help but think that this could be a landslide for Trump, because they don't have much of a response. And if their response is going to be the Democrats are more fun, we could be witnessing just a complete slaughter in November.
No, I mean, that reminds me of a line from King of the Hill when Joseph becomes the quarterback of the team, which has been performing very poorly. This is another football metaphor. And some guy, I think is voiced by the great Dave Herman, shows up at Dale and said, "Your kid reminds me of what I like about football. Winning!" You know what's fun? That's the entry into what you said, fun. You know what's fun? Winning is fun.
Yes. Well, I was going to use a football metaphor, but I thought maybe it was we were overdoing it. But I just want to back up a second here when you talked about the Democrats not recognizing what's going on. Back in my high school football days, I played on defense for my final year, and I do remember teams that we played against lining up in a new formation that hadn't been scouted, and there was always this panic on our side, right on defense's side. So we were trying to figure out what was going on, and usually you didn't have time to sort it all out, and you just sort of reacted to the mess, whatever happened, right? Usually when they did that kind of thing, it was to create that reaction in you as well, and they were going to get 10 yards and a first down. But after that, they could only use it once, kind of thing. I mean, that's really what the Democrats are facing here, right? It's a new formation, and they could get steamrolled here by it. That's my football analogy.
Hillary says that African Americans are not included. I guess she missed that point in Trump's speech, where he talks. I'll just quote from the speech. Decades of record immigration have produced lower wages and higher unemployment for our citizens, especially for African American and Latino workers. We are going to have an immigration system that works, but one that works for the American people. She missed that point? I mean, okay, so let's add together women, and we start off there with 51% of the population, right? African Americans, they're about 13, so we're up to 64.
Right.
LGBT people, well, I'm going to give them like 2%. So we're up to 66. Muslims, I don't know, let's say 3%. So we're up to 69. Latinos, well, that's about 14, right?
Yeah.
So we're up to 83 there. Immigrants, well, what are we up to here? We're up to like 80% plus.
Yeah, we're definitely closing on 90.
You see, I understand the polarization, right? I understand how that works. But you see, when you're accusing your opponent of effectively campaigning against 80% of the population, you've got too greedy there.
Right, yeah. And it becomes obvious that you weren't paying attention as well. Because, of course, there were many statements. In fact, Ivanka's speech was pretty much a plea for women's rights, which threw a lot of people off, actually. I was reading comments. I think it was on Vox Day's site. They were kind of sideswiped by her plea for daycare and things like that. But did she not notice that? Did she not hear that? That was pretty startling. And yet she's up there saying women, She's been outflanked by Trump's daughter, so maybe she just doesn't want to acknowledge that.
Well, the blogger Aquino Cure or Agnostic or the Face-to-Face blog.
Face-to-Face, yeah.
Yeah, he writes today, Trump not trying to win minorities and gays, but whites and straights who care about them. Now, that's an interesting position because, again, we've talked about this on the show. That, for instance, when you see a ridiculous overrepresentation of various ethnic groups in television commercials, you think, why is this going on? And it is my view that this is not, in fact, for the groups themselves. It's meant to appeal to a certain type of white person. Now, Aquino Cure says, who is he really addressing then? It's heterosexual people who put concern for the gays somewhere on their list of really important political goals. They're the ones who launched the gay marriage movement, who supported it among the electorate, and who are okay with it passing in the courts. The 1% to 2% of the population that's gay is not powerful enough to have done that all on their own, let alone in the span of 1 decade. Likewise, when he talks about black unemployment and turmoil in black cities, he's addressing white people who put concern for the blacks on their list. If only blacks themselves were behind Black Lives Matter, there wouldn't be the kind of growing lawlessness that we're seeing. It's the white Minnesotans who are importing Somalis by the boatload out of concern for the Africans. And it was their white governor who came out and whipped the blacks up into a fury about how Philandro Castile was shot by a racist cop who was Mexican anyway. I think that he's right about this. I mean, I do think that Trump will do better amongst blacks, Latinos, and LGBTQ voters than the last two Republican nominees have. I mean, part of that is because this is going to be a landslide. And when you have a landslide, you get support from places where you didn't get support from before.
Right. And this whole law and order issue, it plays to everybody right across the board, doesn't it?
Well, the extent to which it plays to black people is an interesting question because, obviously Black Lives Matter doesn't have that many members, and Black Lives Matter is run by a bunch of crazy, surly, fat lesbians who are not the most popular people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason that it seems to be able to mobilize black people is that a great many blacks in the United States, perhaps a majority of them, have internalized the idea that white people hate them and want to do them harm, and so it's time to fight back.
Mm-hmm. But this last week, I don't know, is it just me? That whole thing's gone really quiet. Did I miss something? I mean, I know I had lots of stuff to do, but it seemed like Black Lives Matter after Baton Rouge just went silent.
Well, we had these attacks in Nice and now in Munich, and the suggestion was made, I don't make these things up, that this was somehow deliberate in order to get people stop talking about Black Lives Matter.
Oh, yeah.
How dare these French people get killed?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares about a bunch of French people anyway?
Mm-hmm. Well, if that is, but you didn't notice they went quiet though. I mean, yes, the activists were still yipping about it, but I mean, they really didn't make the news anywhere, and they certainly didn't disrupt the Trump campaign. The Republican convention at all.
Well, Tom Wolfe wrote about what happened to American Revolution in 1970.
Mm-hmm.
That you had Kent State and you had Jackson State in the same month, right near the end of the 1970 school year.
Mm-hmm.
When the students returned back to school in September, it was over.
Mm-hmm.
It was over just like that. And the reason that he came up with is that apparently that playing at Revolution can get you killed.
Didn't think of it that way before. Yes. So this was new.
Yes, and the Revolution then was left to the diehards like the Weather Underground and the absolute crazies like the Symbionese Liberation Army.
Wow.
Now,
they were nuts.
I mean, what's happened with Black Lives Matter is we've had the cops being killed. Mm-hmm. We haven't had them being killed specifically.
Right.
And they may work up to that.
Well, in a previous podcast, I think our previous one, I had asked you, are the Black Lives Matter going to show up in Cleveland? And you said, no, Philadelphia is a better bet.
It is a better bet.
And you're going to stand by that? You're going to double down? Do you think Baton Rouge may have quieted down that aspect of the culture?
Someone identified as a leader in Black Lives Matter, although, there seems to be thousands of such people. He came up with this idea that it had to be put to Hillary, that we take over the party or we stay home in November. Did you see that?
No, I saw variations of it.
This is the nightmare scenario for the Democrats because they have already, to a large extent, taken over the party.
Right.
We have these mothers of the moment who are going to be on stage, and Hillary doesn't seem to know very many normal people.
Mm-hmm.
But when your child is killed by the police in suspicious circumstances, most normal people feel shame. They don't decide to make a career out of this and get rich thereby. I mean, yes, the police kill people that they shouldn't have killed. But when this happens over and over again, I mean, reasonable people conclude that maybe not that they had it coming, but that, yeah, this doesn't seem to have worked out too well for
Mm.
these kids, right? Like Trayvon Martin. I mean, are we supposed to believe that that guy was going to become some sort of climate scientist or something? That guy, he was the no limit nigga, right?
Mm.
And like his life was heading down fast, very, very quickly at the time that he got shot to death. And Michael Brown, that guy was pretty much a straight up psychopath, you know?
Yeah.
But the idea that, oh, what American women are going to identify with these mothers of the moment. No, they're not. Most of them are going to shudder when they see these women because they think, oh, thank God my children haven't turned out like that.
There is that. But the reason I think it's going to be interesting or possibly a mistake is because by highlighting these people as speakers, by saying, okay, we will invite you in. I don't know if it was an attempt to pacify the movement in order to adopt them so that they don't protest, but they have highlighted that issue. And that is an invitation for the more radical elements to show up. And so the potential for what you said in the protest is at Philadelphia because they have invited it in. They have invited the problem into their camp.
Well, yeah, and I'll give you a specific way in which they've invited it in. That this Black Lives leader, whose name again escapes me, talked about an overhaul of the criminal justice system.
This wasn't DeRay Macus.
No. And Hillary has been talking a great deal, and Obama has been talking a great deal about changes that need to be made in the justice system. Now, the planted axiom here is that the justice system is racist and leads to the death of innocent black bodies. Now, you see that, okay, so if Hillary says, okay, we need to make changes to the justice system, and Black Lives Matter says we need to overhaul the system, well, this seems to be just like a bidding war, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they went to the Republicans and said we have to overhaul the justice system for the benefit of black people, their reaction would have been, get the hell out of here. But with the Democrats are pretty much on board with this, so how far are they willing to go? And the Democrats are very susceptible to pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Very susceptible to pressure.
From within.
That,
yeah.
Well, it's not from within so much. It just they face a situation where they could lose the black vote. I mean, not that the black vote's going to vote for Trump, but their last two presidential victories were based on a rather stupendous level of turnout from blacks. And if the blacks decide not to turn out in order to punish the Democratic Party, well, then, we're talking about landslide, but we're already talking about landslide, right?
Well,
so maybe if the blacks get so pissed with Hillary, they don't show up. We're looking at, Trump at over 60% of the vote.
Well, it's not so much that they would get so pissed at Hillary. They're just not enthusiastic about Hillary.
Well, no, you're right about that. You're right. And there's black turnout is going to fall significantly for two reasons. One, because Obama isn't running again. And two, because the Democrats have been seen, oh, yeah, you say you support Black Lives Matter, but how specifically do you support it? Words aren't enough anymore. We want actions.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. We've got that coming up right away. What day does that start on here? I should look that up. Monday. Okay. And we've got a VP appointment now. We've got a VP appointment. This Kane guy.
Yeah, this is typical guy. This is typical guy who, he represents Virginia, right? Guess how old this guy was when he finally ended up in Virginia?
50?
Well, he's 26 years old when he finally ended up Virginia. You come to a place at the age of 26, sorry. You're not going to be anywhere close to, you're not going to have anything close to a native's understanding of the place. All of your formative experiences have taken place somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
He's a carpetbagger, and he gives every impression that he chose Virginia because he thought that it would be the best host for his political career. Now, you see, this fellow became mayor of Richmond, Virginia, and I suppose that's clever of him, thinking that, well, they're going to have a white mayor eventually, right? And he was that man.
Okay.
And you see, he's another one of these Catholics who, yeah, well, I take a firm stand against this, that, and the other. Okay, I'm abandoning this. Now I'm abandoning that. Now I'm abandoning the other. But don't look upon them as abandonments. It's all part of my evolving. Oh, shut up.
Yeah, it's nuanced.
It's just like,
it's actually very difficult.
Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
if an infanticide movement started up and the Democrat Party said, we're behind infanticide, all of these Catholics would say, well, I think that if you look at the scriptures properly, that infanticide can be,
Abraham, yeah.
Yeah, they would just put up with anything. And, we're getting this business about, him being a devout Catholic, which is one of my very favorite media cliches, because the number of devout people is not very large. Mm-hmm. And the number of devout Catholics is not very large at all. But to the media, anyone who goes to Mass every Sunday is a devout Catholic.
The standards are low.
Yes, the standard is very low indeed.
Okay. Well, that was the other big breaking news, of course, that was released to build it up towards Philadelphia here, which probably will be our next topic.
Well, yeah, there's just, there's not going to be any Nazi salutes in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah. But
of course, there are going to be Nazi salutes because
they're going to be busted heads.
Everybody knows this trick.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, photograph someone waving, and of course, it's called still photography, right? Mm-hmm. And then, oh, look, it looks like the Roman salute. So let's say that this is desperation. Mm-hmm. These people, this whole edifice, again, going back to the Schadenfreude thing, I'm just looking forward to it now. I'm just looking, and it's, oh, no, but not all of them are like that. Oh, have they spoken out against it? Mm. Or have they just cowered? And, oh, well, I hope I'm not using the wrong pronouns in describing anyone here. And if, it turns out I did use the wrong pronouns, I'll apologize.
Well, it was a good week for Trump, good week for news. And
it was a good week for watching Ted Cruz.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Humiliation of his life, which was not the booing of his cowardly rat-like speech where he broke the promise, the pledge. The real humiliation came later when he was denied entry to Sheldon Adelson's suite.
Yeah. All for nothing, Ted. All for nothing.
But so someone, one of my Twitter friends sent me this, that you imagine Cruz hammering on the door saying, but Sheldon, I stand with Israel.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, we're going to end our episode 40. What are we on? 46 here. Episode 46 of Grace and Steel. And hope you enjoy the new format. We'll be coming out with another episode shortly. Is there anything you want to finish off with, Kevin?
Yes, there is. And I'm glad you asked, Kevin. I now have over 3,000 Twitter followers. And over the last 28-day period, I've had 1 million impressions.
Really? 1 million?
And a million.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I'd like to thank Ricky Vaughn and John Rivers, too, and all the other people who've helped me out. And I would like to suggest to our listeners that if they like what they hear in the podcast, well, you get, a somewhat similar version of it on my Twitter feed, which is constantly updated.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully new projects will be coming about because of this change to our format as well. And with that, we're going to end episode 46, our new format, the hour format. Hopefully we'll be coming out with another one shortly. I'm Kevin Steele.
And I'm Kevin Michael Grace.